what's the genesis of this story?
My crazy and wonderful mother. She has been such a major force in my life. She was always reading, Edgar Allan Poe to us. I grew up on a lot of Joan Baez ballads. So there's these strange way of telling stories that's kind of dark and brutal. She is a cross between Snow White and Jessie from Toy Story.
Okay.
I'm so grateful to be a part of this building. The gentleman who owned the corner grocery store in the 90s, I believe, he got shot in the corner.
Oh.
They played music from the 70s, animated Lord of the Rings, kind of Irish tunes. We used to serve turkey leg, pony stew, fresh baked bread loaves, and people showed up. We sold out.
Coming to you from an endless library, where every book is read and every spoiler discussed. Join us as we dig into the lives of fictional people who cannot defend themselves. This is the Side Quest Book Club. Welcome back, Side Questers, to another episode. Today we have Callie Schiavone on with us. From last time we talked about her book, She Had Glass Eyes, and we're going to get right into it.
So Callie is an author. She's a creative world builder, audio drama creator and producer, musician. She's the author, as you said, Jonathan, of She Has Glass Eyes. We covered this in our last episode, and we're very happy to have her here with us, talk about her book and her journey as an author.
Wonderful. Callie, it's great to have you.
Right on. Thank you, guys. I'm really excited to be a part of Side Quest. I've been looking forward to it.
As a lifelong side quester, you finally made it to the boss of all
Yes,
side quests,
exactly.
the podcast called Side Quest.
Complete. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Now what kind of side quest will emerge from this? That's
Yeah.
the joy of it. But I found the spot, the I Ching right here.
There we go. We'll make it we'll come down to your tavern that you run, and we'll run some D&D campaigns on the Yawning Tavern, and make sure we have rotating fancy folk that come in, have adventures, and then always make sure that they stop back when they're in Chattanooga.
Heck yeah. I love it. Let's do it.
And you
That'd
can
be
start
fun.
teaching people all the different skills you have.
Right?
Stunt work, cowgirling, all of it.
Nice. Yes. Yeah. The tavern is where that's the best place to learn all those random things, is at a tavern for sure.
Can you knife throw?
Yes. Not super great. I'm better at roping things. I do shoot a little bit, different calibers of weapons.
All right.
A little bit of axe throwing, and then a little bit of bow shooting as well, bow and arrow.
Do you ever shoot your bow on your horse?
Cow ponies are a strange breed. They're as hardy as they come, but there's certain things they're not as adept at learning to do, because my horse would be like, "What are you doing? This is crazy. This is retarded," and he would not like that. So I have not done that. I would love to, though. I have seen those competitions, and they're absolutely fascinating. And the different style of techniques and shooting that you have to do, totally different bow and all of that. Like, I use a 40-pound recurve, so it's for a little bit more hefty training for hunting, more so than like a horse bow, which is so light, so that you can have that strength while you're riding to draw it back. It's very different things, but that's going to be added to the list, fellas. Absolutely.
Yeah. Of course. Well, what's your most memorable side quest to date in life, or one of them?
Oh my gosh. I have been trying to pick one. I think, oddly enough, that I would have to say music, because I grew up out on a ranch and got to do a lot of things in the agricultural world. I really wanted to be a filmmaker and a film student, and was more or less self-educated, got to do a few little things. But then in a bookstore, after a very busy day out at the ranch, I met this really tall, long-haired hippie kid named Jet. And he and I fell in love and quit our jobs and packed everything up in a Honda Element and hit the road to play rock and roll music. And I think that's probably the most memorable side quest for me.
Yeah. Found love, pack up the car, hit the country and play music places.
Yeah, I just did not
What more can you
expect.
want?
I just really did not expect that. I always loved and enjoyed music, and I did have a little bit of background in music, doing different stuff for church, but I didn't expect to become a musician professionally and like be on the road for well over a decade, playing all over the US and Europe. Like that was just, I was gonna travel, but just not like that. I had no idea, as far as how my brain was planning. But yeah.
Yeah. So in your life, and I picked this up from a couple interviews and then some of the conversation we had before the show, you've just got a bunch of skills. You're a cowgirl. You're a berserker to your own right, right?
Yep.
You don't know how to knife throw, but you use bow and arrow, and you play music, and you travel, and all these things. You're an animal handler. When did you realize that these things were connected as a person growing up into the world that we live in?
Right. I still don't know how they all connect, to be honest. I am so
Fair.
grateful that I have a myriad of experiences, and my growing up sounds very exotic and circus-like, and it wasn't not that. I mean, my family is a little eccentric, and so the way that I grew up, even in the middle of nowhere, New Mexico, and still being able to travel and, enjoy these various aspects of different things, I would say that one of the only ways all those things connect is, one, I was potentially, hopefully designed to be a storyteller, so all of those little experiences can feed into telling stories. And then two, I think that the queen of side questing is probably my mother. And so it doesn't matter what she will get. You'll be driving down the road with her, and she'll see usually in my childhood, there'd be, a dead animal on the side of the road, or maybe there's a weird side dirt road somewhere, and she would just take that weird side road, or she'd pull over and be like, "Come on, girls, let's go see let's go see if that animal, if it needs help, or what is it, or what, I don't know." Like, it just,
okay, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Or there's so many other examples I could give of her really doing that all throughout my childhood. And she's just growing up in that kind of environment to where you're constantly curious and unafraid to just be like, well, I don't know, we're going through this door, which I think is why I have decided to claim the Berserker kind of motif, if you will, because I'm not particularly sneaky or stealthy in nature, and I've always had to just like go down random roads, literally. So it's like, pull out the axe, get ready, and just be ready to like hack away at like, I don't know, I'm mixing all my metaphors. This is too early in the morning. I'm mixing metaphors of like real life and axes and total fiction. And just so everyone knows, and it's very clear, I have never pulled, in all with my mother in any kind of side quest, pulled out an axe and started hacking anything. But this is, I got to get out of here.
Not even a down
next
tree in
question.
the road?
Yeah, next question.
No, we use a chainsaw for that. So.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly.
It's faster. Makes
Get
sense.
me out of here, guys.
Okay. That sounds wild. When I was growing up, I was enthralled with Houdini and his origin story of running away to join the circus, and I was like, that could be fun. So it's kind of it brings a little bit of my childhood spark back in my soul to hear that somebody actually got raised a little bit circus-like. And I'm sure it's not as fantastical as it is up here, but it sounds really fun.
Right? Yeah, it's definitely had its curiously strange moments of, when I retell a story to someone, it's like, oh, and they're like, whoa, Callie, that's really intense, that's wild. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right, like, it's not normal.
You didn't do that?
Yeah, like, okay.
But that's so much better than sitting, let's say, fast forward to you're 60, right? And you're recounting all the stuff that you've done. It's so much better to tell your friends or your children or your neighbor your story instead of going, yeah, well, I was an accountant and I went to work and I crunched numbers. Then I came home and I watched Gilmore Girls, and then I had a Chardonnay, and then I woke up, and then I went to work. And people have those lives, and they're happy and content, and that's great. I'm not dumping on anybody.
Yeah.
But it's so much more interesting to have the life that you've had. I feel at a level a lot toned down than the adventures you've had. I feel like I've lived 10 lives. I worked in construction. I wanted to work for the state's Department of Roads, whatever, because I really enjoyed working outside. Then I, became a Christian, and I decided, wow, wait a minute, I need to learn more about my faith. I went to seminary, and then all of a sudden I got the academic bug, and instead of, working on the hot asphalt or building houses, well, I was actually more on the demolishing end. But anyway, instead of demolishing old houses,
not surprised.
Now I am in a classroom and learning all these heady things and reading, what some theologian in 1132 wrote. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is cool. I'm really good at this academic stuff. I think I should pursue teaching. And so I started pursuing a master's and a PhD. And then I decided, you know what, I need to take a break from academia. My brain hurts. And because on my side quest, I was always interested in digital media, data analytics, marketing, I decided to try that out. And I got hired with no professional experience in that world, but a lot of self-taught, playing around, having side quests in that world. And I was able to build a whole platform for a company. It became a revenue stream. It got like 500,000 followers, 80,000 subscribers for the newsletter, $250,000 in like 6 months. I'm like, oh, I am not bad at this. And that's what I've been doing for the past 17 years. But each decade, if I look back on my life, it's something completely different. Like I feel like I've lived different lives. And then my current job is so different. It's still digital IT, it's still marketing, but it's so different in a completely different industry than the previous job, but then the previous job to that. So each time the shifts were so stark.
Yes, yeah.
I was like, whoa, I'm doing this now. And I've been doing what I'm doing for about, I want to say 3 years. Yeah, 3 years, 3.5 years. And it feels like 30. When I remember the previous job, which felt like, 30 years of that thing, it feels like a lifetime ago. So I think lives like that, it's just, for me, and I know I might sound like a jerk saying this, but it's just more interesting. There's so much more memories to talk about and so much more people you can interact with and get along with. Because I think like people like us, Jonathan, you, me, Callie, we're able to interact with almost anybody, get along with almost anybody, because we're not in one thing all the time.
Yeah.
We've seen so much and done so much. So I think that's wonderful to have a life full of side quests.
Definitely. I think that it's something that really helps develop character, and it helps develop sometimes forcefully, I feel like.
Yeah.
You switch or you get
sometimes
I
feel like it's always.
always, yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And I think it's unique to be able to, a lot, like you said, a lot of people don't have that perspective on change or shifting, and on just going for it. Like, oh, well, I have no experience, but yep, I'm going to say yes to the job too. Because there's that other half of it, right? And I've done that a lot too, where I don't have a lot of experience, but they're willing to take a risk on me. And so, they say yes and I say yes. And so then it's like, all right, here we go, and we'll do this new thing. And it, works out pretty well or not so well. And
right.
move on to the next. I mean, it sounds like we're going to get another shift from you, Slava. I mean, 3 years, right? So,
Yeah.
we're coming up on the time.
He wants to be a cowgirl. Can
Yeah.
we send him to you?
From
Yeah,
Callie, from your lips to God's ears. Because what we've noticed with this podcast, which started out as its own side quest, Jonathan and I have been friends for like 20 years, and we lived in different states, so it's not like we hang out every weekend. But after a hiatus of not seeing or talking to each other, I reached out to him because I needed help with some IT nonsense that I was going through the previous job.
Which he still hasn't paid for.
I
Just let the record show.
I owe you.
Bottle of whiskey, baby.
And as we started talking, he's like, hey, have you ever thought about starting a podcast? And this is in the middle of COVID. And I'm driving to work I'm like one of 4 cars because I'm an essential worker at the job I was doing. So I had to be in the office pretty much every day, or if not every other day. But it was public safety adjacent, so I had to be in the office. And I started listening to a podcast by LSG Media, and they were doing an X-Files. And I loved X-Files when I was a kid, and listening to these 2 guys talk about episodes and memories and what they thought about the show and how the characters and the characters' growth, it popped into my head. I was like, you know what? It'd be really fun to start a podcast and just to see where it goes, just for the hell of it. And after I connected with Jonathan, like a month after that thought popped into my head, Jonathan said, hey, you ever thought about starting a podcast? I was like, yes. And then this thing started. And here's the point I'm trying to make. 4 years later, actually, because 3 years of recording, 1 year of planning and putting things together, we
did plan a bit much.
We have, except when we invite authors at 7 o'clock in the morning to come on the show. Then we don't plan at all.
8.
Yeah.
But the point is, now 3 years later, we have bona fide, actual published authors with a following, not some unknowns, but with followings and works behind them, like you, like Nicholas Cosbaro for the Villadarium series. We have people reaching out to us. And yes, Abby helped us connect, but Nicholas's agent called us and said, hey guys, I listened to your Project Hail Mary episode, liked what you do, would you like to get my author on? So now we're getting noticed. So what started out as like, hey, you want to just do a podcast for the hell of it? Which turned into like, hey, we're both in marketing. Let's try to make this thing a reality and just kind of exercise our marketing muscles. See if we have the chops to build something. And that turned into a passion project, and that turned into us talking to real-life authors. So who knows where this will go. I hope it continues to grow, because I have fun doing this. Talking to you, talking to Nicholas, just talking to Jonathan, and ranting about world building. I have the greatest time doing those things.
That's awesome, guys. I love hearing it.
We should do, I'm going to just make this verbal so that the audience can hold us to it. We should do a live show sometime, indeterminate time frame, down at the old watering hole in Chattanooga. What's it called, Callie?
The wood shop.
The wood shop.
Yeah.
We
that
should
would
do
be
a live
amazing.
show.
We're
not musicians, but we can.
No, but you know what? We do a lot of different types of events. And of course, selfishly, I'm wanting to do more literary events there. But one thing that we just did that was an absolute blast, which you guys could maybe plan on coming down for, is we did Bilbo's birthday bash, a Lord of the Rings themed weekend, where we had a live band playing a lot of you guys will like this. This is good side quest material. All right, I'm waking up. Here we go. Guys. But we decorated the whole bar, the tavern, with lots of Lord of the Rings inspired themes, and it's a super cozy little place in a neighborhood, so it's very pub like already. And so we got to do that, and then we got a band that is extremely, they're wonderfully talented musicians, but they're also real deep old school Lord of the Rings nerds and Tolkien fans. And so they went and started pulling a bunch of different music pieces that helped inspire the Howard Shore score. And then they played music from the 70s animated Lord of the Rings movie,
Heck
yeah.
And so they did some deep tracks, and then of course, some great kind of Irish tunes. And so we did that, and we served turkey legs and coney stew and fresh baked bread loaves, and then of course ale and mead and a bunch of different cocktails. And people showed up. We sold out both nights, like within a few weeks of putting the event live. I had no idea there was going to be that many nerds here in Nashville or in Chattanooga, because I figured, they're in Nashville, they're in Atlanta, whatever. Yeah. And because there's big cons that happen down there, and I didn't quite know that was going to be Chattanooga's thing. Oh man, they loved it. So we're definitely doing it again, but there's room for a lot more themed events like that.
That's fun.
And that was really exciting for me.
Did you do it on his birthday? His and Frodo's birthday?
Yeah, we did it on the weekend because I think it was on a Monday this year.
September 22nd. Yeah, whenever that is.
So we did it the following weekend. But yeah, it was dope. I mean, I think
fun.
Next year we might do it a whole week. Why not? Whole week's
yeah.
Room.
Yeah, may as well. And the wood shop, I was a little pulling up on Google Maps here. You guys are on
Yeah.
St. Elmo Avenue?
Yes. Yeah. St. Elmo.
5500 St.
St.
Elmo
Elmo.
Avenue. In September, go
Yep.
check out
Exactly. We'll
the
have a lot
Hobbit
of fun
Week.
stuff. Yeah, the Hobbit Week. Yeah, St. Elmo is also a really cool old historic neighborhood that's got a lot of history that I still continue to learn about. But the wood shop itself was an old corner grocery store since the early 1900s. And during the Prohibition, they were distilling some moonshine down in the basement and getting that. We met a gentleman whose grandfather used to work there as a boy, and he was in charge of delivering people's groceries, and he had a little red wagon that he would go up and down all the different old houses. It's full of a bunch of old 1800s builds, like 1880s, 1870s builds. And he would deliver their groceries, and then of course there was always snuck in there a bottle of moonshine.
There it is.
You know, a jar of moonshine.
There it is,
So,
There it is.
and then it was a literal wood shop, which is kind of part of where it got its name, where a gentleman and a couple of different entrepreneurs were, after the gentleman who owned the corner grocery store, you know, in the 90s, I believe, he got shot in the corner of the building.
Oh, okay.
And so it stopped being a neighborhood grocery store, just in case you were like, I'm going to go from there to there.
Yeah.
Oh,
And then-
I'm shocked.
Yeah, and then it was abandoned for a while, and then a guy used it as his literal wood shop to create some cabinets and buildings and a couple of custom builds. And then one of his employees, a musician, started holding like house concerts and kind of like backyard party kind of shows at the wood shop, very DIY, very under the radar. And then they more or less kind of turned it into, they could put the bar in there and then the little kitchen, so on and so forth. My husband and I went in there to catch shows. We'd seen a bunch of different shows there. And then he started his blues radio program and live blues show there every Tuesday. And that's what got us in there all the time. And then a series of small miracles later and a side quest, maybe another one of those things. I had no idea. But then a culmination of a lot of the different skills we have, and wham, it was ours. And we just rolled right into the next phase of life and having a music venue, which definitely fits us. But it was wild. There's so much history down there, man. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to be a part of this building's, you know, it's interesting story that it's telling, you know?
Yeah.
As an
Yeah.
old house.
Well, I think this transitions perfectly into talking a little bit about She Had Glass Eyes, which I enjoyed the hell of. I am your evangelist for this book, Callie.
Yay!
I have told so many people about how good this book is because that first line, those first two lines,
Yeah.
I read it
reread
in
it.
we will read it, yeah, definitely. I read it for one of our episodes that we had Abby on because she's like, "Aren't you having my friend on?" I was like, "Yes, we are, and here's why." I've told it to a couple of my other friends, and I think I mentioned it in a few episodes since because we record about 10 episodes ahead. So building up to your episode, I had already read it. But I enjoy this, and I'm going to read the line for the audience again because it is really, really cool. And a quick aside before I read it, when I was a kid, I had my own side quests, and the audience knows because from a little bit that I've shared, I didn't have a good mom. I had a pretty terrible mom, unfortunately. So my side quests were all in my head at the local library, reading Edgar Allan Poe, H.P. Lovecraft, Stephen King, and maybe it was nostalgia, but when I read that line and as I was reading the book, it took me back to first being exposed to Poe. Because it's so Poe-esque. And I was like, hell yeah, we're definitely doing an author show with this person. Where is my Kindle?
We have a
Awesome.
propensity to geek out on the first line of books.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, we won't shut up about it.
Nice.
So congratulations, Callie. You've won an
thanks.
award I haven't
Yay!
started yet. You and one other author, so
Nice. All right.
good work.
And another thing is I enjoy female characters that are not Pollyannas. I don't do damsels in distress well. like my wife is not a damsel in distress. She can hold her own. And if we were to go on a side quest, she would probably, either get the crossbow or the axe. She wouldn't be cowering in the back, clutching at my elbow, asking me to save her. So
Right.
I enjoy Deliverance because, yeah, she's a little mad, but she's also kind of a cool chick. So I like that. But anyway, here's the line that just hooked me. Act 1, England, 1846. With all the festivities surrounding the wedding in Buttingford this summer, I deemed it necessary to give it a wide berth. Quaint rural gatherings are indeed charming, but I can only stomach so much charm and so much quaintness before my countenance falls ill, and I am tempted to commit atrocities. Boom.
Yes.
Very good line. Masterfully done.
Thank you.
And I don't say that lightly. I'm not just, gassing you up. I really think this is an amazing line that you put together.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Well,
Have you ever committed atrocities, Callie? She's like, and the episode's over.
Just Callie exits the chat. I'm gone. Well, right?
Callie, are you there?
Why do you think I don't have the camera on today? No.
She's actually just skinning a cow right now.
Yeah.
She's just like,
exactly.
We need meat for tonight at the tavern. So,
But it's a
prepping
shame.
it.
It's a shame that you can't have your camera on because that sword in the previous episode that I saw with you.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I was like, the sword of atrocities.
The sword of atrocities. Yeah, that's what it's called. I know. It's women are so vain in a lot of ways. And I didn't have time this morning to really get much set up, and so that's
perfect. I'm with you. I'm backing you up because I'm just as vain.
Okay.
I won't put out videos. Jonathan
confirm.
wanted to go video a year
I wanted
earlier.
to go hog wild.
And I
video.
said, no, until we get good cameras and good lighting and I can be presentable on camera, we're not doing it. So I'm with you.
Right.
More power to you. That's
Thank
not
you.
vanity. I think that's a noble, if I may be so bold, sense of pride where we
There
don't
you
have
go.
to be supermodels or anything like that. We don't
Speak
have
for
to be
yourself.
Hollywood-esque production here. But to the degree that we can be professional and do the best we can, we should.
Exactly.
Anyway, so what sparked She Had Glass Eyes was going to be my question. What's the genesis of this story?
Well, you already picked up on a large part of my influences and we were talking before we hit record about my crazy and wonderful mother, and I will be referring to her a lot. She has been such a major force in my life for good and for weird, but she was always reading Edgar Allan Poe to us. I grew up on a lot of Joan Baez ballads that are all about the train wrecked and the main guy his legs are chopped off and will his lover still stick with him or not. And so there's these strange way of telling stories that's kind of dark and brutal, but my mom is not a dark individual. Like she is a cross between Snow White and Jessie from Toy Story. Like exactly. Okay. That's her. All right. She's got red hair. She wears her hair in pigtails. She's always got her hat on. But she sings and every kind of creature out of the woods comes to her. It's very unique. She's a light character. And so I think even that in and of itself is very inspirational to me, but of more Victorian era literature, and I love that. I love Rudyard Kipling's short stories, Poe, Dickens, and many others. And whenever it was in 2020, towards the end, and she got horribly ill, not from COVID, from something else, and I flew back. I was living in Nashville at the time, and she was out in New Mexico, and I flew back to help take care of her because she was just she's as strong as an ox, and this just took her down. So I wanted to go help my dad with her and everything. So I went back to New Mexico, and I was trying to challenge myself to be more precise with my writing and to write shorter. So I'm sure at some point we'll talk about 1232, the audio epic, which is, a massive project. And so I can be very long-winded, and I was challenging myself to write more short stories. And there was a prompt from a different anthology series that I wanted to get into about, strange, mysterious things happening in a quaint English village in the 1840s was more or less the prompt. And so I had been ruminating on that, and I wanted to write something that would kind of cheer my mom up in that weird sort of dark, twisted humor way that she and I have with each other. And so I literally was like, okay, England, 1846. What happened? Was there anything significant? Because I love pulling from history. I think there's so many fascinating people and situations and circumstances and gaps and twists and turns, much like side questing in our own lives. I think we can all attest to that. Inspires me more than a lot of other things. And so I can't believe I found it. And then there's not a million more books about it, but I found one of the articles about the machine, the Euphonia. And so that is what sparked that. And I started writing this story about this. And I'm always kind of waiting for characters to speak to me. I'm very character driven in my writing style, my choice, whatever. And I heard Dilly's voice and kind of talking about this thing. And I was like, oh, who are you? Wait, what? And so I just wrote this little short story, basically the first 3,000 words, more or less act one. Mm-hmm. And that's what I wrote. And I read it to my mom while I'm, it was very Victorian. I'm like ladling soup down her throat and she's, coughing or whatever. And I'm, reading this dark tale about, obsession and madness. And so she and I had a good time with that. So I have to say that the inspiration was all those different influences that I'm humbled and flattered and really happy that people are picking up on that. I really wanted to take people back to that era and time of enjoying such a dark tale that's fable-esque and not necessarily just dark for the hell of it and just to scare you. And so thank you guys for your kind words. I really appreciate it. But that is the inspiration. And then when I got involved with 20 Hills Publishing, they're the ones who read the short story and said, man, we really love the short story, but is there more? Like, it feels like there's more. And I said, yeah, there is. But I was trying to be brief. And they said what every writer wants to hear is please write more instead of cut/edit, And right. So that's what I got to do. I got to expand the story into what you read. And I'm really grateful for that. It was fun.
Congratulations on that. Yeah.
I know. Thank you. Yeah, it was cool, man. It's really cool. So
you're blowing my mind right now. And I feel like in future things, like, you need to tell people, like, Euphonia is real. Like,
I know. Thing. Yes. Yeah. It's real.
I'm like, can you side quest us over to, like, give us a verbal history of, like, this thing that you found? Like, what was it back then?
Right.
Because we've read the book, and anyone who's listening is going to go read the book. So, like, what did they make in the 1840s or
right.
whatever it was?
Well, that's the curious thing, is the idea of pushing the boundaries of technology is part of a very interesting, I suppose, anthropological type of saga throughout mankind, that how we've devised and developed things often way before anyone knows what to call it necessarily. Mm-hmm. And people are inventing and talking about it, and that fascinates me to no end. Like the guy who invented the wheel or whatever, like, I want to talk to him. I'm like, how did you do this? So whenever I was researching interesting events, I came across an article that said, now some kind of flowery language, which I'm butchering at the moment, but it's like now
Sure.
Premiering at the Egyptian Hall, the Euphonia, the marvelous talking machine. And I was like, oh, okay, that's weird. Wow, 1846. Like, all right. So I dug into it, and it was a machine that simulated human speech. And it was invented by a German inventor named Joseph Faber. And not much was known about him at all. He was not some kind of giant in the scientific world of the day, and he had created this machine that, I don't know why, but he created a woman's head, and it was made of like porcelain and rubber lips so that the mouth could move, and it had hair and makeup, and it was just this floating head inside of this like kind of wooden cage crate with strings and different things attached to it. And he had a type of keyboard, not like a computer keyboard, but like a piano keyboard with pedals and knobs that he could use and manipulate and open the mouth and pull these different reeds in the nose for it to make speech. Now, the problem is we don't have, and I'm hoping, oh God, I hope this reaches somebody somewhere, but we don't have the Euphonia machine right now. It's not in a museum somewhere. Okay. We don't have blueprints.
You think it still exists?
Somebody's got to have it. Somebody.
At least part of it, yeah.
Part of it, or the blueprints or something. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have any physical, like, I can't tell you other than what I've read in articles and other than what they sketched in the articles of back in the day of how this machine worked. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I am hoping that the more we talk about it, somebody's going to hit me up and be like, I have the machine. But
it's in a rural museum in, Podunk, Kentucky in the hills.
Exactly. Somebody's got to have it. But it's absolutely incredible. This machine, it could speak full words. So it wasn't just like,
I don't believe it.
I know. And it used these
skeptic.
billows. And so it had this weird sort of like raspy sort of voice. And your imagination can play with how on earth it sounded, but it could sing, it could say hello in a bunch of different languages, and it could actually form words. And then he went on tour with P.T. Barnum, and
so that part's real too.
That part's real also. So in the book, that's how we're introduced to him, is that he is premiering the machine at the Egyptian Hall in London, which was an exhibition hall that Tesla would have been at a few decades later.
Oh.
And
incredible.
People were shocked by it. It was.
I'm shocked by it. It's 2025, and I'm shocked by it.
Right, and it was kind of a strange, grotesque way of creating this machine. Like, why a woman's head with like real hair? Like, this is weird.
Probably because he was lonely. Anyway,
right. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things we can.
The first AI bot.
I'm extrapolating, but
Slava, exactly. No, you guys are on track, because this is the question and the worry of AI. Like, people were protesting the machine because they were like, people are going to be replaced. You should not be creating something in the human image. For multiple reasons. They were thinking of it in a biblical sense of, blasphemy. They were thinking of it in like, robots, they didn't call them robots yet. Automatons are going to take our jobs. They're going to influence and hurt us down the road. And they were having those exact type of conversations in 1846. And that really, you guys, that just sent me on a spin, so I had to write something about it. And if you pick up a copy of the physical book, we have an article with a sketch of the machine in the back.
Yep.
So
is that real, or is that you just had that made for the book?
So it's a bit of both. There's, like I said, there's no like copyright or blueprint ownership material, but we took one of the articles, which you can find in the Library of Congress. You can find a bunch of them about the machine, and gave her a little bit of a change as far as what her face might have looked like, kind of according to the description in the book. And then but that's like one of the legit article that talks about how people perceived it. And some people found it amazing, but most people found it, horrible and the end of the world and very upset
Grotesque.
and grotesque. And that's why he went on the circus circuit.
Yeah,
But that
makes sense.
demoralized
That makes sense.
him. That demoralized him, I think, because he in
Checks
real
out.
life, in real life, and that's kind of where I stepped in, is like in real life, the machine and the man disappeared off the tour. And I was like, oh, that's weird. So
People need to know. People need to know that this is based on real events.
it is, yeah.
So I have to nerd out a second, like Slava did, or fanboy, I guess is actually what it's called. When I was reading it before our last episode, I also mentioned to Slava, I was like, this feels like Lovecraft, this feels like Poe, this feels dark and enjoyable, and it feels Victorian without feeling forced.
Mhm.
The narrative, the voice that you use, consistent across the board, the language, the sentence structure. Now, I'm not an expert, like hands down, not an expert, but it doesn't matter if it's objectively factual, right? If I felt like I was in the world, you
Mhm.
did your job as the author, and I was invited into the world, and I absolutely love it. Didn't know, it makes it even better. It makes it freaking awesome that like you took some real event, which needs to be part of your marketing. Like unsolicited advice has to be involved, and then also like they were having these same conversations. That's 100. I just did the math quickly. 179 years we've been having the conversation about AI, right? Like humans being replaced. Maybe longer, but at least in this instance, it's 179 years. And so like you're pulling back to the first conversations, as far as we know, of like, are people going to be replaced by AI? Are they going to be replaced by humans? This unholy thing, a Frankenstein, a Mary Shelley Frankenstein type story. Just like, Callie, we gotta tell the masses. We're gonna turn this into a short. We gotta tell the masses this is based on real events that I had no idea about. Like, that's the first geek out thing. Second thing, are there more stories in this world, Dilly or otherwise? I'm now seeing like your world come to life as you're talking in my mind of like, what if she has like this whole series of atrocities and oddities of like the people that Barnum like touched but weren't big enough to get noticed, and it's just all these like this anthology of sort. You got me going.
Yeah, right. I know.
Yeah.
Well,
how many followers did Barnum create?
Burn.
Yeah, exactly.
Burn,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the kind of rabbit holes you fall down into, and then it's difficult to stay focused, and not pull in other things, as someone who gets exactly like when I came across that article, and I was like, oh, I'm going to look up this thing, and there's going to be so many books about it, like fictional books, or, this has got to be like, there's no way. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to use it in any way, shape, or form in fiction.
Diamond in the rough.
But I was like, this is strange that it's not that I don't know about this, because I love this stuff. And so it was very, very cool to be able to put that in. Like I was saying, I love history. That's a huge inspiration for me. And it's so untouched in a lot of ways. There's so many strange, curious things. Also, because in the past, and there's individuals involved, well, nobody knows what their reasoning was. Nobody knows why he invented it exactly. We could speculate, and that is where the fun begins. And then Dilly and Deliverance and her whole situation, and who and how she was, I just pulled a lot of different things. She was, like I said, the characters kind of begin speaking to me. I hear their voice kind of in some sort of dark sphere of my mind, like it's not formed, it's a blank world, and then a voice characteristic, something will begin, and then I just foolishly start walking towards that in the dark, and then all of a sudden the world begins to light up, and there's things begin to take shape, and sometimes those voices turn into something, sometimes they don't. But I was really pleased to meet her. And at first I was like, is this a good idea? Because having a female Undertaker in the 1840s is not historically
Scandalous.
accurate. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, it's not. I'm not saying that there weren't any, because women were in just about every single profession on the planet, even back then, which nobody wants to talk about. They all want to say, but that's just not true. They just weren't very many of them, and they were underrated for sure, but they were in just about every profession. And so I'm sure there was a female Undertaker somewhere.
Yeah.
But that was kind of an interesting perspective to give. And I was really pleased with how it kind of wrapped up in her pursuing the oddities and being such a strange individual, her desire to keep people at a distance and yet come across something that just infatuated her. And do we not see that today? We have people, proposing to their AI girlfriends, and we all think, how is that even possible? Like, why would you even do that? But they're not as strange as Deliverance, hopefully, but hopefully, right? But there's somebody who wants to keep the world and individuals at bay, but there's something so enticing about a soulless machine that they want to be close to. And that is, that's that whole, like, where, when, how does the soul come about and everything. That's a question that mankind's been after. I mean, that's the point of Frankenstein. That's the point of a lot of different stuff and of that era. And I think it was just I would love to do more in that world. I've thought about it quite a bit, and there are a few other things that are not related to She Had Glass Eyes or Deliverance, to be honest, but are in that same vein. I loved being able to write in that style, and I have to give props to 20 Hills, because all the gals on that team for the editing, I wanted to be way more historically accurate with the language, with the Victorian stuff, like some of the first drafts, the sentence structure and the things. And we had to find a good mix of the two, to where, like you were saying, Jonathan, to where it's like you got taken into the world, but you didn't get distracted by, a bunch of words
you did it
nobody uses anymore.
You
and
did
so,
it. You achieved
well,
it.
we
Nice
had
work.
it, and I have to give them a lot of credit for it. We had to push pull that relationship a little bit
Sure.
On some of that, as far as the sentence structure and the writing. And there was a few where I was like, I don't care, the sentence is this way. It feels like a run-on, but it's not, because this is the type of verbs where this is it, like this is how it's going. And they were like, okay, well, but you can't, nobody knows what this word is, so find something that's a little bit more palatable. And I'm like, okay, fine. So it was really, I'm just really proud of it. I'm really pleased, and I can't wait to do more. And you guys know, as creatives, as authors, you put something out into the world, there's the glowing moment of like, look, everybody, and then it's like, okay, I can do better, let's go again.
Yeah.
How
many cards did you play of like, I'm not changing this, that they let you keep?
Quite a few.
Wow.
And they were cool with that. Like there was a few frustrating moments. I was probably a little difficult for them to deal with, because I can be quite stubborn.
The only author who's honest about her work.
Yeah,
I might have been a little difficult. With
and there were a couple things that definitely. I don't know. Let's see if I could count. I'm not going to count, because I don't think I'd be entirely accurate at this point. But
15, 20?
Yeah, 20,000. No.
Oh wow.
No, I'm kidding. There were a good handful where I was like, look, guys, I hear the beta readers, I hear you, I'm not changing it. And that's just that. And they're like, okay. They really didn't, they only pushed back on kind of this one section that I guess we can talk. Can we talk all the details? I don't know. Is that a good idea?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
This is the show about you.
Okay,
all of
okay.
It. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I haven't gotten to talk about the book, in
the process.
A lot of depth. Yeah.
Yeah.
The process in a lot of depth yet.
Please.
Too many people. But there's a scene in Act 2. It's the beginning of Act 2 when they're in the village. and like the village meeting basically is happening about bringing the circus to town. That was a lot longer. And they wanted me to cut it out entirely because they're like, hey, we got to keep the pace, like da, 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 da. And I was like, I hear you on that. However, this is very, in writing and being inspired by certain types of Victorian literature, it's all about those little vignettes of setting the scene of like, yes, you are going to get an explanation of, you know, the farmer and his cottage, and that's going to be only a little blip on the timeline, but you're going to get it. That was the point. Like, Victorians were looking at those kinds of details. And then I also consume on the regular a ton of British television, and so those scenes of the townspeople and their opinions and their thoughts was like super important to me. And so we cut it down. We found some good compromises, and I cut out a bunch of, because they're like, well, you know, we don't really need all these weird random characters with names to pop up because they're not really part of the rest of the story. And I was like, okay, heard, I understand, you're right. Like, we don't need to side quest too much, right? But the point was I had to keep that scene to help set the stage for what would be coming after. That was super duper important to me. And so we found a good compromise, if you will, on that, where they're like, okay, keep that scene, but cut it in half. And I was like, okay, no problem. You know, so that kind of is a big part of it.
That's sweet. Are there any other parts of the process that you want to share with us? Because neither of us is published authors, but we do know some of the people who listen are aspiring writers and things like that. So it doesn't even have to be advice, but just like, this is what it was like, and here's how you might, you know, go about doing your own thing.
Sure. You know, I've been writing, you know, I've always enjoyed writing fiction and stories since I was young, like us all. That's not anything new. I think just about everybody can relate to that. Kind of like everybody can relate to writing a song at some point. And then I was pretty good at school, not great. I was actually absolute rubbish at grammar. Still am. That
makes me feel better.
I still am. I told the publishers, I was like, great, I can't wait to sign with you guys. But before I sign, I am horrible at grammar, and I'm probably not, like, if there's one big heavy lifting thing you're gonna have to do, it's gonna be the grammar. Like, you guys gotta, I don't know, you gotta figure that out.
Appreciate the honesty.
But I'm getting more, you know, as I write more, I'm getting better at remembering all the rules, and my first drafts always look better. So I guess I'll just say that for someone who is continuing to write, wanting to be published or not, you don't always have to pursue some kind of professional aspiration to call yourself an author or a writer. But if you do, take the criticism, use that to constantly improve those first drafts, because the quicker you can write those first drafts, the quicker you can finish a story and actually get it done with a lot of confidence. So, like, do it, you know, just do it. Just keep writing, keep working on it, and be careful what you're reading and ingesting while you're writing. Be honest with yourself. Find good critique. Like, my husband is my biggest critic, and so and also my biggest fan, right? But he's also very brutally honest when it comes to writing and everything. And so he was able to really push me to be better, just in the whole process. And so, yeah, I don't really have a lot of writing advice yet. Maybe in another 10 years, I'll be able to just, like, man, I'll just fit in you guys will just be like, wow. But for now, it's more about, it's very personal. And I think that everyone kind of there's that stage where it's like your writing advice and your writing concept is personal. And then as you develop more and more, you begin to see the pattern of the advice you can give others easier.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm terrible at grammar.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that is a mental block right? Of, well, I mean, I'd like to have a published book at some point. So hearing, it's like super encouraging to me to hear from you that, hey, some places are like, they'll work with you. Like
Hmm.
they don't expect you to be the Stephen King when you walk in,
Right.
because they're going to work with you. And so thank you for that.
Yeah.
Even if no one else cares, that helps me.
Good. Yeah. Good. And that's the thing is fear is the number one thing that stops us all, right? Is that fear of being a failure, that fear of, someone criticizing a little too harshly, or that fear of starting, or that fear of all the different fears that can come into your place. And like you said, become a mental block. And those things you have to peel away, and God takes us all on a different quest to peel away those fears and give us confidence. And I think it has nothing to do with believing in yourself. It has everything to do with working on yourself and working on your craft and taking the advice and just starting. And I enjoy a lot of authors who are, really well dead and gone. And
Mm-hmm.
from my perspective, they just started, you know, and they didn't get to do, maybe they did do different types of podcasts, articles or interviews that we don't have access to anymore, but they went ahead and started. But it's, writing is a strange, cruel mistress. It's strange. It's weird.
Yeah. How do you carve out time to write while being a professional side quester?
I don't really. It's one of those things where I'm a very uh, I'm a ponderer. I like to marinate in an idea, and I will sit on an idea or a project or a story for a really long time before I ever write anything down. Um, Sometimes even years. And so then it's a little bit easier for me to then schedule and carve out the time to write. But it's usually only a couple hours at a time. I've had one incredible writing trip, absolutely incredible. And that was some of the most glorious days of my life, being able to actually carve out 3 weeks to write a story from beginning to end by myself on a trip. And that was insane. I mean, if I could do that at least once a year, I would, but you just can't. So you got to just find those little moments and for me, putting on headphones and having a good playlist, or even just putting
Yeah.
on headphones to kind of zero me in on it, then that for a couple hours at a time, that's what I get.
So you took yourself on a writer's retreat. What was the publishing or the fruit of that trip?
It was, it hasn't been entirely realized. It got to be like I said, just
Okay.
a much better written draft because of all my different experience. And it's in the 1232 universe. So it's in the medieval history. It's book 2 of 1232. And that was just, oh my gosh, it was just awesome. It was so great to be able to go and focus on that story and write the next series of it, the next chapter. And it I'm writing that story with my sister Cheyenne. She and I started writing 1232, a time travel medieval fantasy story, long time ago. And we don't have to talk about that just yet because that's a whole nother thing. But so now I need to get that draft to her. But she's also she's a mom, she's got 2 kiddos, and she works very, very hard, and she's got a lot going on. But she's an incredible writer. She's an incredible writer. And so we have to kind of bounce back and forth on when each other can work on a
For
story
sure.
together. So it takes time.
So you're co-authoring this with your sister?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I want to talk about 1232, but before that, to finish out this section of the podcast, I have a couple of questions I wanted to ask you, Callie.
Sure.
And these came about as I was listening to other interviews that that you did. So the first one is about being a Christian artist.
Mm-hmm.
in our world, as we find ourselves in the Christian strata of the world in 2025, and even before, when I was growing up, and I'll be unapologetically brutal, I find Christian art is absolute garbage. It's sanitized. There's those JPMs that you talked about, Jesus per minute, right? Like, and it has to be so quaint, Pollyanna-esque, where there is nothing genuine. And those are also your words, which I really resonated with. And so, as a Christian and as a Christian artist who, has created these worlds that are not per se Christian, just like this podcast. We're not a Christian podcast, even though both Jonathan and I are Christians. We talk about books. And sure, our worldview informs how we talk about it, but this is just a book podcast. This is a book club. So what would you say, or how would you articulate this? How can we stay Christian, Orthodox, all that good stuff, but yet engage with evil and the grotesque stuff and horror and sci-fi, the worlds that some Christians shy away from, or they want to sanitize it to the point where it's meaningless? How do you do it, and how would you encourage others to do it if they're sitting here? So it's a two-part question. If they're sitting here, hypothetical me, I want to write a story about horror, but I'm somehow unable to or hindered because I have fears, or I'm not sure how to breach that wall where I can write something as a Christian and yet it'd be genuine and maybe a little bit disturbing, but it's me interacting with the world. It's me not endorsing anything that I'm writing. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And as I was figuring out the most succinct way to answer this question, there's a couple of different things we have to take into consideration. So when it comes to Christian art and the development of it over the decades in our Western world, something that really frustrates me in music and in entertainment in general is with the birth of the radio. We had a new concept of like counterculture. We had rock and roll, gospel, country music, a cappella, all that was played on the same radio when it first came out. It's like same station. Do you know what I mean? Like there was only one or two stations, and they had gospel in the whatever their scheduling was in the morning, and then whatever else next.
Yeah.
And then Elvis at night. I don't know. And then
Scandalous.
Then there began to be this separation in society where it was like, well, no, Christian needs to be over here on this station, and secular needs to be over here on this station. And we began this divorce between what is very human and natural, is that all of us have a spiritual propensity. We're designed that we have a soul.
Yeah.
This is what we feel. And especially as artists, we're constantly tapping into that every time we create. And so, that having this big divorce of the soul, of saying, well, there's certain art that belongs in a certain situation, and then there's certain art that doesn't. A lot of that comes down from greed and exploitation, exploiting Christian audiences and making them think that they have to listen to or read or ingest only Christian material. And what is interesting is I'm not entirely sure why people feel like they have to sanitize, like you said, or write these stories that are trying to talk about a very deep and personal conversion and conversation, and make it so shallow.
That's a good word.
I've struggled with that my whole life. We always go back to the greats, George MacDonald, C.S. Lewis, Tolkien. That's because those men they never denied where they had been, and always were looking forward to where they were going. And
that's a good word.
I think that we in the American church and the Western world, we have taken the idea of where we've been and where we're going to a whole extreme of like, well, well, you should be ashamed, and well, now everything's better, right? And don't worry about that, and this is what good people do, and we've just started this whole marketing campaign, and it's leaked into how the artist writes. So we've been bamboozled as Christian creatives and entertainers to think and be educated that what we write needs to be wholesome. And I've just never been able to reconcile that with the brutality of the things that have happened in my own life, with people in scripture, with people in history. I mean, it is dark and it is gritty and it is real. And like you said, we don't glorify it. We don't, as we'd say in Christianese, we don't glorify those things, or we don't promote those things, but we allow them to be discussed. And you always want to use tact and decorum. I'm somebody who greatly believes in that, as that's where the line is for me. I will be continuing to write horror, thriller. I've got a really dark tale that I want to tell that's kind of in that fable zone of, it's more modern, and it's going to be shocking, because it's shocking to me. I struggle writing it because it's dealing with some really dark, heavy stuff, but I feel called to write it because I think that shining light on that and redeeming the story, or telling a fable, telling an anecdote of some kind, is really important. And then as far as how to be genuine with it, I mean, the problem is, y'all, is nobody wants to be honest with themselves. Okay.
Say it again. Say it again, Callie.
Right. Nobody wants to be honest with themselves. They don't want to be honest with the time that it takes to develop and be a good author, but they also don't want to be honest with themselves with what they truly struggle and go through. Okay. And everybody is looking for escapism. Has gone just a little bit too far to where we'll even apply that to our writing, to our creative pursuits. And that is not the point. And so when I think about the Christian literature and entertainment and kind of how it's created its own little bubble, I see that that's exactly what it's done. Instead of being this counterculture that's attracting people to it, it's instead created its own little bubble and world. And yes, there is a lot of really shitty art in that bubble. That be, the people are like, well, Jesus told me to make it, and so it must be great. No, Jesus is calling, potentially. I mean, I don't know what that person's specific calling is from Christ. I shouldn't be that arrogant. But my point is that Christ calls us to holiness. And in that process, he teaches us things that help us become better people, right? That's the point. And in that, we can always develop our language and conversation skills and relationships. And it's the same with the writing. It's the same with the art. You start at one place, you're called to do something, and you get better as you go. And you're supposed to take that criticism, and you're supposed to take that. And so I think, to answer your question, we've been very deceived on when it comes to like the Christian world and the Christian art and entertainment. And we've been very deceived. We've been told that it's better to make safe art because that's what God has called us to do. That's a lie, I think. I think that's absolutely an incredible lie, because I look at the life of Christ, I look at the stories he told, I look at scripture, and I see nothing safe about it at all. I see challenge and fears met head on, and brutality and redemption and peace and love and justice. And those things are not safe. Second of all, when it comes to people being able to write genuinely, it is that honesty. And I don't think that secular people are more or less honest. I think there's a lot of terribly shallow secular work out there, which is why we are seeing Christian authors really rise up, and the Christian entertainment in general really rise up and write things that are more, and we're hitting home with people better because we're finally being honest and then at the end showing that hope.
Go figure.
So that's the thing is you want to be a Christian, you want to follow Christ in your own life, and it is a personal relationship, right? So what you're going through as a person is important. And then if you're called into the entertainment industry in any way, shape, or form, or you want to share with other people, do your absolute best. Don't cut corners, and I'm nowhere near where I want to be for my personal excellence as an author or as an entertainer. I have a long way to go, but I'm going to continue to pursue that. And people, even in the Christian sphere, are given trophies for just being, you're a Christian, yay, you wrote something wholesome,
and you're popular,
or you're this or you're that, and we need to continue to push back against that mode of congratulating people just because they crossed the finish line. It's like, well, were you first? No? Okay. Well,
exactly.
then
exactly.
I mean,
you're second. You're king of the losers. Nice work, bro.
Yeah, like it's we've gotten so soft as a society, and you don't have to be cruel. Like I said, that's where I draw the line. You got to do it with decorum and tact. You don't want to be cruel, but you can be honest and you can be truthful, and you can write and develop art that is light and dark. And it can absolutely be excellent and made with good intentions, but written in a way that resonates. And it's a challenge. I don't know. I mean, it's absolutely it's just a challenge, but we got to keep pushing each other to do that.
Yeah. And that's absolutely right.
And that's my very long-winded answer.
I love that answer.
That's a great answer. Are you enjoying today's side quest? Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. We are available on YouTube and all major platforms, so you can listen to us anywhere. And now, back to the show.
So, Callie, you're bringing up this. I have struggled with this, right? Like, I have struggled with writing well and writing authentically in the world that I'm working on. So I little backstory for you. The listeners have heard this before here or there. I worked on a book for 7 years with a buddy of mine. I wanted to be the next Lord of the Rings. We've got 40 characters, 3 languages started, 6 continents, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We started from creation of the world through present day, which is estimated at 10 to 15,000 years. And the origin story and I'm going to use Tolkien races for conversational purposes so people get an idea of like, okay, right? So we've got the orcs, if you will, equivalent, called the Veserath, which are, we'll say, a combination of elves and another humans. But the origin of this people group is mystical, spiritual, and brutal at the same time. And I wrote this story. It's probably the best story I've written in this world so far. But, like, there's heavy rape in it. Like, right? And I just, like, I've thought about this. I'm like, at some point, my mom's going to read this and just, like, how do I feel about that, right? Like, but it's authentic to, like, them, how they're birthing this nation of, like, evil, right? And there's a wrestling. There's a, like, how do you use decorum? How do you not glorify it, but, like, also truthful? Like, I can't have a big bad evil in the future if I don't have a nation that tries to overwhelm and conquer that needs to be stopped, right? And this is just kind of, like, sharing my experience of not having an answer for this. For any of the listeners out there, like, we need to talk about evil. Like, Dinah was raped in the Bible, as well as other women. Like, these are things that happen in the world. Not talking about it doesn't do anybody justice, and simply continues to let them be collateral damage in history, and we can't do that. Same with dismembering people, like killing swaths. Like, we have to talk about the fact that darkness exists, evil exists. You can't whitewash it. Evil exists, period. Hardline. Like, it does. Because I don't care if you're a Christian or not, like, at some point in your worldview, something is declared as evil, which means that you agree that evil exists. We might not agree on what that is, but you agree that evil is a present reality. I don't really have a question there. I just wanted to share that I also, as a writer, like, and that's not going to be the only story of something absolutely terrible happening in this world. But we have to push back. We have to write it.
Well, there's two things that I'll say on that really quick is, one, the comment about the mom really cracked me up, because even though my mom is, of course, one of my biggest fans, and I love her to death, she was a little upset that She Had Glass Eyes did not end with a more, a flourish of hope or a light. It kind of ends like, oh shit, okay, and also kind of fun and quirky, it's not like crazy dark, but it's like, oh wow, ooh, okay. And she was like, oh, I really wish that, there was a better ending. And so that, that's tough. That's tough to deal with that kind of feedback for yourself or from others. And then I think the most critical thing, and pray about, seek out the truth in this and pray about this. And anybody who's listening and you're in the same kind of position that Jonathan is in, or myself or Slava, and you're trying to wrestle with this, it's a wrestling, period, the end. But whatever you write, make sure that the choice is clear for your characters, that your evil is choosing, and that your good is a choice. It's not about they're so bad, so of course they do all this stuff. It's no, they are so bad because they choose to do these things. And this is the consequence. If we learn anything from reading scripture, we learn, and we're talking about, this happens in the Bible and this, that, and the other thing. And people will throw that in our face and say, yeah, isn't it a terrible book? Why do you read that? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, actually what the Bible is showing me is the choice that certain people made to do these horrible things, and the justice that comes and the consequences that come. And so the consequences of the choices that your world and your culture of people that you're writing about make are going to be the consequences later down that everyone else has to deal with. And so, that is, that's exactly what you have. That's the challenge as a writer, is making sure that choice is clear. So if we go back to Tolkien, we go back to Lewis, we go back to all these things, that inspire us, and even the greats of, even older literature. It doesn't even have to be Tolkien or Lewis, to be honest, because before that kind of divorce that we were just talking about earlier, Christians were, the only place they could publish was in the secular sphere, if you will. With air quotes, that's the only, there was one publishing house that existed, and that was it. It wasn't go to the Christian publishing house or the secular one. Dickens' A Christmas Carol was secularly published, if you will. Christ was more in
scandalous.
Christ was more in the conversation than it is now. That's why we've got to work on that. But it's always those choices. The choice to make a ring that is going to control other people is a consequence of the decision made by, the different high elves that came to Middle Earth. That's what makes it such a great story. That's what makes the world building make sense. And it's not just senseless violence or they're evil. It's because each choice had a consequence, and that's the consequence coming through. And that is how you connect those dots. So make your choice very clear, and that is how you're going to show the good guys from the bad guys.
I love that.
Yeah, that's a fantastic answer. And that's a perfect segue into talking about 1232. I listened to the prologue, and our protagonist has a choice to make, doesn't he? I'll tease that out. You guys should go listen to it. We'll link it in the show notes. But talk about anything you want, pitch the story of 1232, where this originated from, what it's about. Just kind of give us a little bit more than Cliff Notes, but give us
Can I refine your question, Slava? I love that. So I haven't checked out any of it. Slava has just told me hey, she did this thing, check it out. I examined that there are 30-something episodes. That's as far as I know. So right. I'll stand in as the scapegoat audience to tease me, convince me to go check it out. I mean, I'm already going to.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Well, 1232 is a time travel medieval fantasy, and it's very different than She Had Glass Eyes. And it's once again inspired by history. It's about a brother and sister with a very rocky relationship, non-existent one, basically, who are from New Mexico, who get whisked back in time to medieval Wales in the year 1232, where they're confronted with the brutality of life and Christ, and they take with them the baggage of lessons they've learned from the American church to medieval times, where real life has very complicated consequences, and they meet a warrior priest and a prince deposed of his throne, and a evil enchantress. So we get to talk about paganism and Catholicism, and we don't shy away from how those two things were brutally clashing in that era. And then we talk about broken relationships, and that's kind of where it comes from. And it's a fully narrated, so like an audiobook, you've got narration so you don't lose your place. It's fully dramatized, meaning we have over 40 different voice actors from all over the world being a part of it. And it's also it's also got sound effects, so you can get very immersed inside the world, whether you're in your car or listening through your headphones. And then
or shaving. I was shaving and listening to this.
Thanks, Slava. That adds a lot. That adds a lot. Appreciate it.
And then it also has an original score that was written by myself and my husband.
Very nice.
Yeah. And it's a story that started as a film script. We shot the trailer for it back in New Mexico back in 2009, and we created a little short film, and I got to take that to a couple of different homeschool conventions back home in New Mexico and inspire a bunch of other homeschool kids to start getting into film more. And then it sat, Cheyenne, my sister, and I wrote the script, and while we were taking the short film to a couple of different homeschool conventions, she's my older sister, and she thought that I was very silly for doing all of these things. But as I was telling her more about the story, she said, "Callie, this sounds like a book." And so I blame her for the book, because that's it. So we started writing the book, and it took 14 years because we were traveling. She got married, I got married. I was on the road full time playing music, had no time to write. And we were going back and forth trying to, share documents and all these different things. This is back where we were like literally mailing each other, printed copies for edits, or eventually hard drives, and then eventually a shared Google Doc with internet. But,
nice.
So, and then we got the book finished in 2020 because I was no longer touring and the world slowed down and shut down. So we were both able to finish it. And then I started optioning it out, pitching it, and I got stuck in exactly what we were just talking about. Christian publishers liked it, but they're like, but one of the main characters doesn't become a Christian in the end, and you've got, a lot of paganism involved, and you've got, there's some blurred lines.
Yeah, bro, the real world exists.
There's some brutality and some blurred lines, and it's just not Christian enough for us. And then the secular world is like, oh man, there's a lot of praying in here, and they're like, yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, if you were in these positions, you would pray. And so I got stuck, and I wasn't sure what to do, and I was confused, because I do absolutely feel like the Lord gave me this story, and I do absolutely feel like it. Both of us were like, it needs to be told. Like, we've put so much work into it, and we feel its importance. And 1232 is a story of courage and hope and heroes and villains. It's very different from She Had Glass Eyes, but we were really passionate about it. And then I was stuck, and I was like, all right, we're going to have to self-publish, but this is a huge book, and it's going to cost a lot of money and time, and we kind of don't really have either of those things. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll do the audio version. I'm in the studio more than I am, editing drafts or whatever. And I've got experience, recording my own albums and producing and all this kinds of stuff. Maybe an audiobook is where I can start. And then there's a lot more male characters than there are females. And so it's like, I don't know how I'm going to do that with voice acting. And then my husband was like, why don't we do like an audio drama? And we sat down, and in less than 20 minutes, we had cast the whole thing with just different people we knew from the film world and the music world and the voice acting and like all the different things we've done. And I was like, dang, okay. And I prayed about it, and I just felt this huge go from God. Like he was like, yep, I want it to go out. So I'm looking at yet again something that's going to take up a ton of time and cost a ton of money, and how the heck to do it. And so I did a Kickstarter, and it ended up being extremely successful, and I was very surprised by that. And we were able to raise well over 20 grand and get the first season recorded and produced and put out. And I had an incredible team. It took a ton of people, a lot of hours, and we are all so proud of it. And it got nominated last year for a best, fiction audio drama with a pretty big Christian speculative fiction organization called Realm Makers. And so we got our little nomination there, which was awesome. And we were, in line with people who've worked with, Adventures in Odyssey, Focus on the Family. Like we got to be counted amongst them. And it was huge. And we decided to release it podcast style, like episodic, because of the nature of the editing, but also wanting to harken back to the days of yore when we all used to tune in every week. That didn't work super well metrically, but it did okay. And so if you have time, you enjoy audiobooks, you enjoy stories, you're looking for something that's definitely family friendly. It is not for children. However, it is more or less child safe. There's no sex scenes. There's no
What kind
cussing.
of age groups are we talking here?
I mean,
roughly speaking, you can't quote her on this.
Okay. 10 years old at the youngest. I mean, if you let your kids watch Indiana Jones or Pirates of the Caribbean or even Lord of the Rings, like at 10 years old, like you can listen to this. And we have a lot of young listeners, and we have a lot of adult listeners. We have a wonderful swath of people. And the 30 episodes that you see is just season 1.
Season 1's 30 episodes?
Yeah. So there's 20 hours.
Yeah.
And then season 2 is not in
60.
production. Yeah, 60.
Oh, right.
No, it's 30, but it's not in production right now. With side quests, right? I don't know, like doing different things. But that's 1232. It's such a joy to make, and I love multimedia, and I love being able to do different voice acting and get into all those different modes. And I love film. I mentioned many hours ago whenever we started this that I wanted to be a film student, and this was like producing a TV show. This was almost the same amount of like hours and work and time, but we just didn't have the visuals to go with it. But the nice thing is we wrote the book, and so you get to read the description of, and you're not. Sometimes audio drama and radio drama still to this day can get very confusing. It's like watching a movie. It's like listening to a movie and you're like in another room, and the movie's, the TV's on, and there's all these weird like pauses and things, and you can't picture it all together, or maybe you don't remember the different voices or so on and so forth. So having the narration and the descriptions that are happening in the book, I feel like makes it extremely well-rounded, and the book has made a better audio drama, I think, than a book.
You cast it in 20 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
That's so impressive.
Yeah, and then just about everybody said yes. I think I just had one person say, no, I don't have time, and I was able to pivot and find somebody else, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
amazing.
So actually, I in one of the previous interviews I watched of you, you talked about wanting to go to film school. I went to film school. You didn't miss anything, honestly,
nice.
Except for the student loans. Like
right,
you're doing way better off, Callie.
Cool.
Good. You did not miss anything.
I feel like we are kindred spirits, the three of us, because I also wanted to go to film school and be not an actor, because even at a young age, I knew I couldn't act anything but myself.
Right.
My
and
range would be this small. But I loved film. I was the guy at 14 when DVDs came out. I would watch the director commentary. I would watch film theory. So the same thing with like design, graphic design. I'm not the greatest artist. I have sketches and journals, hopefully nobody will ever see, that are okay. But like, I've also done audio editing for 3 years for this podcast. I've now transitioned into learning video editing, and I'm only able to do that because my brother and my nephew were graphic designers. Well, brother were because brother passed away. Nephew still is. And observing them for, I think, like 17 years, I have it in my head what good art should look like or what a good design should look like. And I've been listening to audiobooks and radio dramas since I was a kid. That's, escaping what we talked about earlier in the episode, and reading different kind of books. So I feel like the conversation today, we are really kindred spirits. It's like, love film, love books, love sci-fi, speculative fiction. I adore horror. Like when I was a kid, horror got me through a lot of tough times. I would get lost in the world of Stephen King, Dean Koontz, Shelley, R.L. Stine, Christopher Pike, all those things. And I think to be able to come full circle, for me personally, this is a personal note, and now be in a creative space where it's not just me and a buddy, say Jonathan or somebody else, talking about it, but publicly talking about it and having an audience and growing that audience. Our audience has doubled since August, which is an amazing spike, like literally double. Not, maybe 48%, but it's a big jump for us. Meeting you, meeting Nicholas Casbaro, meeting Abby. The way we met Abby is I put a poll on Instagram. What's your favorite zombie book? And she answered, and I was like, oh, that's an interesting one. And then I went to her Instagram account. I'm like, oh, she's a content creator. Let's get her on the show. And all this just takes us on one more side quest and a different side quest, and here we are now.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's similar to how I met Abby as well, is through Instagram and 20 Hills and just that whole group of people. And I love that, for all of its ilk and ills and how much I hate social media, it really can do a good job of connecting us all and getting us to meet new people. Like if you use it as a tool, it's amazing. It's an absolutely incredible tool. If you use it as, sorry, sirens. If you use it as just you're just consuming, or you're just using it as a vanity check of some kind, then that's when it gets really destructive. But if you can figure out how to use it as a tool, it's amazing. And getting people to network and finding you guys, finding them, all this different stuff. It's, it's really cool. It's really cool. And, it's interesting how we all have this propensity for film and these storytelling and doing all of this. And then here we are in an age where, thank goodness, writing and having the skill to tell a good story has not gotten easier, but the tools at our disposal, I don't like AI or anything like that, but I do like the different types of tools that we have for editing, for creating stories. Like our time will come as we continue to pursue different things, but I believe that I will be able to make films one day, but it'll probably be with, really tight, small crew, because you don't have to have everybody. But I look forward to that day. And I think that, it's just important to keep working on the writing and experiencing life. That's the nice thing about side quests, right? Is you get more life experience. Saying yes to those.
So true.
Those are very important, because I was just talking to a young author last night, and she's like, I just feel like I need more life experience to really write something. And I said, yeah, for the most part, that's true. Like there are certain things that you can absolutely imagine and you don't have to have experienced in order to write something very poignant and beautiful. But at the same time, the more opportunity you have for grabbing life experiences, the better. Because that means you're engaged, and that's how you're going to write good dialogue. That's how you're going to write a good character, is that you're engaged in life, so
I think it also makes writing easier too, because then you're not making it up. You're like, oh, well, this is what I experienced.
Because the short story that I'm writing, also 7 years writing a short story, it's autobiographical. It's something that I witnessed as a kid, and it's ripe for a horror novel. Or a horror short story, and it's all sorts of sundry reasons why I have not been able to finish it. But, maybe one day, and maybe one day soon. But one thing I wanted to touch on that you mentioned just earlier in your response is, AI and social media. I think it's how we use it, because I work professionally on social media, creating social media content. And I am an early adopter, so I like to try out new technologies. For example, we use AI for some of our episode art. We don't use it to create the episode art, but we use AI to alter it to have a particular kind of look. So if you go to our YouTube channel, which right now it's only audio, January, which will be in the past when this airs. January is when we will have video. Would have been. How did I say that in English? There's going to be video. There'll be video on the YouTube channel. But if you go back through our history on Spotify or on Apple or on YouTube, the channel art and some of the thumbnails and episode art, it's clearly AI. But it's also real photos that are, in the public domain that I've used AI to alter to make it look like our brand. And I do that because I also have a life and a career and 2 dogs and a wife and other books that I'm reading and just stuff that I have to do. So I think the point is, and I agree with you, I also hate social media and a lot of AI slop that comes on when you're watching videos or you're watching Instagram, you're doom scrolling when you're bored, which I do sometimes. And I can see how it is just damaging to us as humans. So I think, I'm not trying to create a counter argument. I'm agreeing with you, but as I'm agreeing with you, I'm also like, well, it's all in how you use it, right? Because if you use it to cut corners and you use it just to put crap out there, take no pride in your work, then that's when you get where we are today. And I think it touches back to what you said earlier, where it's all about, what's the phrase you used? Escapism. It's all about escapism. And yeah, I read Stephen King to escape. But if it was the only thing that I ever did, if I turn on the TV or read a book or turn on social media only to, get a little dopamine and move on.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly. I mean, using a tool is, and how you use it is important. Keeping it sharp, keeping it good. I think I can't help but mention this is a little bit of my own personal rant when it comes to resorting to using AI. So
we love a personal rant.
Okay. Okay. Here you go. Here's my hot take on the reason why I think it's okay if you are a creative person and you're having to use AI to do some of the heavy lifting. Is look, we all can't be good at everything. Okay, that's just not going to happen. All right. And if you're somebody who's multi-talented, woohoo, bravo, get out of the way. Most of us aren't. Most of us are having to, this isn't for you. Most of us are maybe good at writing or maybe good at drawing or maybe good at copy or, whatever. And we're not good at all the things. And then I find it so frustrating that in the age of social media, when people just can't wait to share their art, they're extremely hard to get a hold of and to get a real quote from and to work from. So I have to use AI sometimes because I cannot get a hold of a freaking artist on Instagram or through their email, or they don't even have a website or whatever. And the reason why, exactly. The reason why so many of us are having to resort to using some of these tools is not because we want to cut out real artists and not because we want to do anything, cut corners in that way. It's because you guys are either charging way too much for a skill you clearly do not have, or you're impossible to get a hold of, and you don't do your damn job and read your emails and get back to me. You're I don't have time. Everybody has time to check their fucking email. I check my email every single day, you guys, and I cannot believe
she's checking it right now.
I am checking. You can't tell. I've been reading my emails all morning. I am caught. Oh, no, just kidding. But it's just crazy to me that the lack of professionalism in artists and getting a hold of artists and graphic designers and sketch artists and filmmakers and musicians and all this kinds of stuff, the lack of professionalism is what has really, in my mind, led to people resorting to AI.
Callie, I'm telling you, we are kindred spirits. I have the same rants every damn day, and Jonathan just looks at me like, I heard this before. But yeah, I can't stand certain things, and unprofessionalism is one of those things. Mm-hmm. Like, as somebody on many of my side quests has worked at restaurants, this is an example, has run restaurants even as a young person, has washed dishes, cooked on the line, and ran the front end of the restaurant, and then, did orders for the food. Mm-hmm. I understand the pressures. I understand customers can be absolute unreasonable douchebags. Mm-hmm. But I also know when I'm sitting down, if it's just the natural chaos of a restaurant life that's making my food late or cold or bad, or if somebody's just completely fucking up and not doing their job.
Right.
And that drives me up the wall.
Yeah.
So I condone your rant. Your words are accepted. This is good. This is a good rant.
Words are accepted.
Right. Yeah, accepted. Okay, cool. Yeah. I know. I get really fed up with that in a lot of different ways. Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, it's I'm not saying it's everybody's fault, but it is just a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's a collective fault. Like, if everybody just did 1% better, each time they did something, we wouldn't be here. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to ask, before we start wrapping up, I have one more final question for you.
Okay.
But as we wrap up our little chat about 1232, how can people support it financially? Where can they go to give money for second season?
Right. All right. Nice. I like that. That's a good question. So audio-epic.com is the website. You can also find information for She Had Glass Eyes, audio-epic.com. That's where you'll find my author bio, you'll find the site, and you'll also find a donation button there that you can, if you want, and you can send us a note and say, hey, I want season 2. And you can throw in $5, $10, $100, $2,000, I don't care. And, whatever you feel
3,
like doing.
Start at the high end and work your way down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 10,000 cap, and then go down. Let us know that you want season 2. I mean, enjoy the first season, dive in. We've got Arthurian legend involved. We got time travel. So if you're somebody that grew up enjoying stories like A Knight's Tale and Merlin from BBC and all these different kinds of fun, fantastical, quirky little humorous stories, then I think you're really going to enjoy 1232. And we wrote it for you if that is your profile there. That's where the algorithm takes you. And I hope you enjoy it. And yes, if you want season 2, you got to tell me. People got to tell me they want it. And I will absolutely get the gang back together and make time to finish it. The nice thing is it's over halfway finished with the production of season 2. Like, we've got all the voice acting down, all the episodes. But we're waiting on a few more things. One of my wonderfully talented editors, and his name is Casey Caballero, and he, I want to pay him well because he is amazing. He does such an incredible job, and that's just the nature of it. But that's how you be pro.
Season 2's over halfway done?
Yeah.
You guys, I haven't even watched it yet. But it's just so hard to do film. It's so hard to do production.
Yeah.
Go give her $5.
There you go.
Give her $1. What's the rough number you need to finish it?
$10,000.
$10,000?
Yeah.
Guys.
Easy. Not bad. I know, right?
$10,000. You could come up with $10,000. Let's all go panhandle for the afternoon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. We'll probably make 5.
I could panhandle for the afternoon.
I believe that. You'll probably make more than Slav and I because you can play music. So you can just,
That's right.
Yeah.
But you guys, go drop some cash over there to
go.
Callie. Help her get season 2 out the door.
Yeah.
Let's do even a couple bucks.
Yeah. And that's and thank you. Appreciate that, fellas. Yeah, absolutely. That's the cool thing about it. And yeah, I'm always working, and there's always a portion of what I take in from my work that goes to my art, and you hack away at it, and
always.
Yep. Yeah, and we'll drop your socials in the show description. We'll drop the donate page. We'll do all that for you, because I think unless you want to call out your IG page, we'll put it on the description.
Yeah. At Callie Sioux. My middle name is Sue, Sioux. So
very cool.
You'll need to see it to know how to spell it.
Sounds good. So as we wind down, because we don't want to take up too much of your time, and you've been gracious with your morning for us,
Yes,
so
thank you.
We appreciate it. And the many interviews that we watched and the conversation we had today, what I appreciate about you as a person is like your tenacity that you have for all the side quests that God has put you on. A two-part question as we end here. Like, how do you keep yourself motivated with all the changes coming your way, all the stuff that you have to juggle? And then how has your faith, because we talked a lot about it being Christians and being in the world and creating stuff. So all the side quests, what has motivated you and kept you grounded? And then how has your faith played into that?
Right. Well, it's a two-part question with one part answer, to be honest. And that is, my faith and my worldview and my relationship with Christ is the number one motivator.
There it is.
I know that's it.
Yeah.
I don't have anything more to say, because we talked about that call to holiness. We talked about that call to excellence. We talked about the traumas and the difficult things we go through in life. What's the one thing that keeps us going? Where is my confidence placed? And that's in the Son of God, Jesus Christ, King of Kings, Lord of Lords. He's coming back, y'all.
Amen.
You better watch out. You better
Yep.
get your shit together, because the thing
Exactly.
is that not only because if something scary might happen and I need a lifeline. It's more about that everyday motivation. I have dealt with a lot of darkness in my own personal life, and it is only by the tools that Christ has given me, that hope, that faith, that love, that forgiveness, that I can even get up in the morning and try again. Because we have all been knocked down, whether it's creatively or emotionally or physically. Dealt with a lot of different health things in my life, and I've been angry at God, I've been thankful, I've been lost, I've been on my knees in tears, I've been rejoicing on the mountaintops. It doesn't mean that we're not going to go through all those ups and downs, but every time I go through those ups and downs, there's a rock, there's a line, there's always that He's always there, always. And I have been so I could, and we don't have time for any of this, but know that I have gone from moment to moment, and I can tell you all the different times the Lord has been faithful in my life. And it's been very small things to very, very big things that are very obvious. And I am so grateful and so blessed by that. 1232 is a testament. She Had Glass Eyes is a testament. Y'all are a testament to that. What I'm doing right now in this crazy epic side quest of having this, this music venue and bar, and that God is faithful through all those things. And the reason why you want to know Him and have a relationship with Him and welcome that kind of influence in your life is so that you can see all those unique things too. And so that you can wake up every day and be like, damn, what's God going to do today? This is wild. I'm going to be okay. And that is why you need a savior, not just because, the end of the world. But that's kind of a big one. I don't know what we're going through right now, but it ain't.
No, that's beautifully said. And I'm reminded of what Peter wrote to the early church. And the early church, obviously, facing backlash and oppression on multiple sides. Mm-hmm. And he says, that you have and I'm paraphrasing, he talks about the hope that you have and how to share that hope or talk about that hope or answer questions. And also before that, he's talking about the difficult things the church is going through. But at the center of this little piece of his letter is set apart Christ as Lord. And that changes everything. So I think you capture that beautifully.
I also see you waking up in the mornings and going like, damn, what's God going to do today?
Yeah. What's it? We'll go back on that Berserker thing for just a moment.
Okay.
Is
nice segue.
Yeah. That's the kind of mentality when you're somebody who's dealt with depression and all these dark things, and then you get a second chance at life, and you get this you get great people around you, and yet you still have to really fight for your will and fight against the anxiety and the depression and the darkness. And it absolutely is, you got to put on your armor. And for me, I have to take on those challenges head on and it's this weird kind of like Berserker against darkness thing. Like, I'm terrible at video games, but I can play the ones where you just get a giant weapon and just hack slash your way through.
There you go.
Yep.
You know, and
Yep.
and yeah, I guess if I had time to do D&D, they would be bunches of variations of a Berserker, Cowgirl Berserker.
Hey,
I love
there
that.
it is.
One of my favorite verses is Exodus 14:14, where it says that the Lord is a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
And just like, that's it. That's the statement. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah.
So especially like and we didn't even talk about this, so maybe we'll just have to have you back on. Whether or not we read another piece to have you back on, just in general, it's like an author chat of just like, what do you do as a creative who struggles with darkness, right? Like this Slava has his story, I have mine. Like you mentioned depression. I the Lord helped me overcome depression. Literally, we were in a Jonah season,
right.
And we were not on talking terms. You know, I used "we" in air quotes, right? And he came to me, and I was watching Game of Thrones, and he said there was a line at the end of, I don't know, whatever season it was, and the character's like, a lot can happen between now and never, and he just popped this like bubble for me, and he's like, but in a, like, hearing that line, I was depressed in a bad state, and he's like, he breathed hope on it, and he's like, if you fast, I'll take away depression forever. And like, it's just not depression's not something that gets to go away, right? Like, that's not what we're taught in the world or whatever. But similar to you, I'm a fighter. I believe in growth. I believe in developing ourselves. I also believe in stark honesty with yourself, even when it's not comfortable. And I was like, well, I can just be depressed, which is like this wet blanket that ruins every part of your life for an indeterminate amount of time. Or I can fast and take a chance at this being real. If I fail, like, I still have depression, but like, whatever. I screwed the fast up every day. And he was still gracious enough to like remove it for the rest of my life. I don't want to kill myself anymore. I love myself. I enjoy, he removed anger, bitterness, and a whole swath of other things. And so I love to hear from other artists who have or are having to fight back darkness, because it's an honor to know that we're all in this together, and to know that even though we might have moments where it feels like we're alone, you're not alone. And so this is kind of just a shout out to all the listeners. If you're dealing with something like this, like, you're not alone. You have us. We might not know you personally, but it is a battle that we do together as a family.
Absolutely. And that's the best part about being spiritually connected and looking at each other as, you know, brothers and sisters in Christ and in good spirit, is that we can pray for you, and it absolutely changes things. Absolutely changes things. But I really appreciate you guys. And yeah, this has been a great chat. And yeah, I look forward to more. Thank you so much for reading She Had Glass Eyes, and also for checking out 1232. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on the show. We'll catch you guys next time on Side Quest. And until then, enjoy your side questing. I have a favor to ask you. If you like what we're doing, the simplest way to support the show is to hit subscribe. In return, we'll keep leveling up, and we'll listen to your feedback and read authors that you suggest. And of course, we'll take side quests along the way. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.